Hi all, welcome back to another card making video. I'm still having fun with the new Lawn Fawn release, but I also got myself some older sets that work great with the new stuff. So for this card I combined the two. It's a lot of ink blending and die cutting, but you end up with a colorful and fun card. So without further ado, let's get started. Spreek je Nederlands? Is ondertiteling beschikbaar. All the dies are from Lawn Fawn and I start with cutting the sunburst backdrop out of some watercolor paper. With the largest die from the large stitched rectangle stackables, I cut a stitched rectangle with the same size as the backdrop, also out of the watercolor paper. I'm going to start with the backdrop. The first Distress Oxide I start with is picked raspberry. I use a blending tool and I blend it to halfway the backdrop. The bottom part will be covered later on, so I don't worry too much about covering it there, but I do blend the whole part just because it's easier. The next color is spiced marmalade. I first blend it on and then switch back to the pink to smooth the transition. I go back and forth with the two colors a few times without adding new ink to the blending tool. This helps smoothing it out. I'm finishing it up with mustard seed. I use the same technique of going back and forth with the colors till I'm happy with the result. I'm using a piece of scrap paper to make sure I don't add any fingerprints to the wet ink. Here I thought it was done, but when I saw it in a different angle, I figured I wanted to smooth it out just a little bit more. The circle from the backdrop is going to be the sun in the scene, so I blend that with mustard seed too, and I darken the edges with spiced marmalade. On a scrap piece of watercolor paper, I'm going to lay down the scripty aloha die, and I put a pencil mark so I know how far I need to blend my ink. Of course you could use colored paper for this step if you would want to, but I wanted the pink to exactly match the background, so I ink blended it with picked raspberry. From another piece of watercolor paper, I die cut the palm tree border. Now I'm going to check with my background where I should cut it to fit my card. I want the palm trees in front of the sun and I only want the left side of it all, so I'm placing it so that the palm trees on the side would just pop off the card. I'm using the last stitched rectangle again to cut this. I'm placing it on top of it all, matching the backdrop. Now, since I don't want the palm trees to be cut, I line it up at the edge of my cutting plate so that only the hill will be cut. The palm tree backdrop includes an additional die to cut out another layer, so you can add some stitching to the hill and can easily die cut it from another color paper or a piece to ink blend on. Since I don't want to add too much paper and with all the stitching going on the card already, it would be nice to keep the island plain. So with some masking tape I tape off the palm trees. I start with antique linen at the top. Then I very lightly blend on some vintage photo. I smooth this out with the antique linen blending tool and I go back and forth till I'm happy with the result. I protect the palm trees with a piece of notepad paper because I'm going to splatter some ink for a sandy effect. I use walnut stain and smoosh some onto my work surface. I use some water to thin it down and with a toothbrush and my thumb I splatter it onto my beach. I remove the tape and I start on blending the palm trees. I use vintage photo again and I use a small blending brush. You could also mask off the beach if that would make it easier for you, but I could manage it like this. With walnut stain I add some depth to the trees. Included in the palm tree border set are these palm tree leaves. I cut a bunch out of watercolor paper and I'm going to match them with the trees to see which ones I need. I'm ink blending a base color with mowed lawn. With a blending brush I'm adding a little depth using rustic wilderness. By the way, if you like my videos, you can support my channel by subscribing. It's totally free to do so. If you already are a subscriber, thank you! Out of the stitched rectangle I cut earlier, I'm going to use one of the stitched wave borders to cut the ocean piece. I lay it next to my island to see how high I want to cut it. I also use the scripty aloha to see if it leaves me with enough room. I start blending my ocean with salvage patina at the top. Then I use Mermaid Lagoon for the rest. It's the same technique again of going back and forth till I'm happy with the result. On the bottom, I'm using a tiny bit of blueprint sketch to darken it just a bit. I blend that out till I'm satisfied with the result. I prepared the top fold craft paper card base. I'm adhering the backdrop using my ATG. Then I pop in the sun. I always check if the card base is sticking out somewhere, and I use a long sharp scissors to cut it off if needed. Before gluing my ocean piece down on the island, I'm double checking if I'm happy with the result. Then I use liquid glue to glue it all down. Next, I glue this to the card. Now that the ink blended piece for the Scripty Aloha is dry, I use the die to cut it out. I glue this slightly angled onto the ocean. Next thing I do is gluing the palm tree leaves to the matching palm tree. From the toucan do it set, I stamped the flying toucan twice and colored those in with different colors to add some variation. If you want to know how I colored the toucans and which marker colors I used, check out the blog post linked down below. I glue the toucans in place, and with that my card is done. I love how the card turned out so bright and with such a tropical summer feel to it. Normally I use way more stamped images to build the scene, but I absolutely love to do it a little different on this card. Hopefully I inspired you with my video, and I hope that you feel inspired to get crafty as well. If so, please consider leaving a thumbs up, subscribing to my channel and ringing the bell to receive a notification when a new video is up. Thanks for watching, see you next time, bye!